Welcome to the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, where we take a metabolic approach to help guide you on preventing, prevailing, and striving over cancer.
We are live on the Prevail Over Cancer podcast. I'm Jeff Lopes, co-host. Keith Bishop keeps in scrubs today. He's at his pharmacy working, so he had a little time off, so we're going to jump in and do an important topic, environment. And when I first found out I had cancer, I read the first book I read was Metabolic Effects on Cancer and a Metabolic Approach on Cancer. And environment is a huge part of that book. And it's something I really dove into and started to study about learning my home and making it as preventable cancer as possible and what to look for, then also work environment and stuff like that. So let's dive right into that. When I look at my home, there's certain things I really focus on. One, the HVAC system. Every 3 months, we change the filter, sometimes even every 2 months. It's very cost efficient, and it's something that I think is very, very important because we have the air conditioning and the heat running through that. So we change the filter on a regular basis. Another thing I never did before, but I do on a regular basis, is when I get home every single day, I open up a window or a door, winter and summer, and let fresh air in, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, just to get the airflow through the house. And I really have focused a lot of attention on having HEPA filters in my house, just for air quality, and also snake plants, where I have literally a snake plant, which takes about 20, they say average 30 to 35% of the toxins of the air. Naturally, I have them in our bedrooms, I have them in the living room, I have them in the hallway, I have them in the kids' room, I have them at work. I'm actually growing them at work. I got a shelf with like 4 or 5 of them here. I'm growing them now, and it's something that I do. Let's talk about what you take in consideration in your home, and then we'll talk about work environment and all that.
Yeah, so same thing. So heat, a heating system, can be a little bit of an issue because of that heat, especially like we use propane heat or natural gas. Actually, the burning of that those fumes, but even a gas stove, gas oven, we're burning those chemicals, and those, when we burn that, there are outgassing chemicals. And so most home heating systems are more like a closed system and minimal impact of burnt chemicals, from the gas, let's say natural gas. Electric systems or heat pumps are not as much of a concern about toxins, but most of those are enclosed so that the exposure should be minimal. But that's where you have to have inspections. There's no way that you and I are qualified to get up there and look and make sure that there's no holes or gaps, in that heat system, and from the burnt gases. Now, a gas stove, cooking stove, same thing. We've got to vent that. We've got to suck that outside. So anytime a gas type stove is being used, the overhead vent, we got to be sucking that out. There are studies, about concerns. Gas is electric would be the fewest amount of toxins. Gas, natural gas and propane would be a better option than a wood stove. A wood stove, you're definitely going to have a lot more things. Even if you use a wood stove, I have a friend in the mountains that we do have that, and so we vent outside as much as we can. We got to vent those particles. And that comes back to filters like the HEPA filters, small particle filters. Matter of fact, COVID and masks taught me a lot about particle size. And so we've, started off with, not able to get masks. And then, I started buying filters, and we even bought a special filter that's actually made in Oklahoma, but it's shipped all over the world. But it's a special filter. And my wife actually was cutting these filters to insert into the cloth face masks, trying to get a small particle size, and to try to block out virus exposure. And so it has to be small particle size. But that most particle sizes that they're trying to reduce, meaning in the environment, is they call it a PM, a particle matter of 2.5 microns. And so, like pollution, a major problem. So
Yeah.
the filters and home filters. So I'd kind of digress a little bit, but back to the filters. So the filters at home, we want to get the best filter that we can. Least expensive or cheap filter is just going to take care of dust. It's not going to take care of smaller things like pollen and dust, and burnt particles. So I made a post recently about candles and things like that. We can talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. I have that on my list.
But that filter is going to help reduce that, but it's got to be a good filter and it has to be changed out probably more often than what the programmable thermostat has. Like a timer on it, and about how long. But when you pull those filters out and you look at them, you realize, oh wow, it's doing its job. And so, yes, change that out every 3 months.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I do it seasonal. Since I have discovered, obviously, my cancer journey, we've actually started just doing it now. We do it 6 times a year. So we do it every 2 months now. And like I said, you can buy them a high quality one in a pack, and it's very cost efficient. And it's something that is so minimal, it takes 1 minute to do, and it does a drastic change in your home. Now, also, one thing we also do is with my I got one of those dry vacs with the tube, like a vacuum with the things, and we actually open up our vents and shove that in there every couple of weeks and just suck out the dust from the actual vents. So we do that. It's something very simple as well, but it's crazy how much dust accumulates in those vents, and then they're pushing out the air and you're breathing that as you sleep. Right, especially in the wintertime when it's really pushing out the heat. So that's another little tip that you could easily do, is just vacuum out your own vents on a regular basis every couple of weeks. When you're cleaning the house or vacuuming the house, just stick the tube in there. It doesn't have to go very far in, just enough to be able to clean out the dust on the main vent area, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Matter of fact, there's actually an issue about that type of thing. So for our at home, our air ducts are in the ground. And so definitely insects get in there, and insects die, then that decays, and that allows for mold growth.
Yeah.
And mold can be a significant health issue and potentially even some cancer type concerns too.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful with mold.
Could be that. So that's the purpose of like cleaning those vents and you're vacuuming that out. Exactly. So, and filters are extremely important. Opening the windows, here at the pharmacy, we can't open the windows, but the local community or city guidelines on heat and air systems require a certain amount, a percent of air come from the outside. So it's not just inside air. I mean, it's a combination of outside air and inside air that's being mixed at all times.
Yeah.
So that's, and changing out the filters. We actually have a company that comes every month to change out filters.
Yeah. Let's dive into that, because that's something I also read, and something that I implied into our routine. Like we said at the beginning here, is every day we get home, summer or winter, even if it's cold, I open up a window, open up the slide doors, and whether the dog is in or out, just get fresh air, get an airflow, because the air stuff there of that heat working all day, and you leave your house in the morning, go to work, kids go to school, that's just circulating there, getting that fresh flow of air and being able to help circulate does wonders for those toxins in that air.
Exactly. So yeah, those toxins, if you think about how dust forms, but there's the other toxins that we can't see. So, there's outgassing. I'll just hold this up, my phone holder, but there's outgassing from these plastics, and that's going throughout the system. So yes, opening up and filtering, very important. Matter of fact, it's kind of I've heard that it's a popular thing in Scandinavian countries to, do that, like what you're talking about, is open up those windows every day.
It's a very European thing.
It's a European, okay.
Yeah. You see that a lot of in a lot of parts of Europe, they'll do that. Is they'll open up the windows and doors and just let air flow all the time. It's just, I mean, they're doing it for fresh air, just for the dampness of the homes there. They're more damp. They're doing it more for the fresh air, but there's studies that show the benefit of it, right?
Right, exactly. Yes. And then plants, I love that. Matter of fact, I've got two bigger, and they're keep getting bigger plants right here, next to the window. And which I think windows are extremely and be able to see and get that light exposure for those.
Yeah, of course.
Inside but yes, the plants. I've got the two large plants that are growing. And
which plants? Do you know what type of plants?
It's a ponytail palm, and I don't think we can. There's a little piece of it there, so and it's a couple. It's almost 2 feet tall now. The growing part of it, I'm counting the pot, and then I don't know what the other one is. It's I'm going to take it. I understand that it actually will survive extreme cold weather. I've been nurturing. Somebody brought it up here as a gift, and I'm going to go take it home and plant it. It's supposed to survive the winter. So it's kind of like a ground cover. It's some type of a inch plant or something like that. But anyway, it's supposed to be very stable. It dies out in the winter, but then it comes back automatically. I love those plants.
Yeah. I mean, that was one thing I dove into when also I got diagnosed was best ways to eliminate toxins in your home. And it just came up study after study, snake plants. And that was why I kind of adored myself to snake plants and I literally take little ones and they're massive. My daughter's got one in her room. My son's got one. We got one in our bedroom, hallway, downstairs, basement, like the whole house is full of them. My office, I've been growing them here because we're all windows here. And it literally in a couple of months, you turn one into 2 or 3, 4 of them. And very low maintenance. I probably water it once a week, half a cup of water, just leave it by the window, and that thing just grows like wild. We have them in the cottage, we have them in all our facilities, and it's just there's so many studies that says it takes about 30-35% of the toxins in the air, and it's something so simple. And it's pretty. You look at it, there is attractive. It adds the greenery to the room, and it's so many benefits to it, right?
That's right. Yes. And I'll probably have to have you give me a tip on how to grow that snake plant because I keep killing them. I think I'm overwatering.
I literally once a week, half a cup, I put it in and just leave it and it just wants lots of daylight. And it was crazy is we have them at the cottage and there's been moments where we don't go up there for 6 months at a time. And we get back there and the thing hasn't been watered in 6 months and it's like triple the size. So they're very low maintenance. As long as they have a lot of daylight, they're very, very low maintenance.
I'm probably actually not providing enough daylight and probably too much water. So they're rotting,
Yeah, that's too much water, guaranteed.
I know what I've done. So on that, I'm great outside plants, but inside, I struggle a little bit.
Let's talk about cleaning products at home. And one thing we've also really focused on, like I said, my mindset, Keith, with cancer is you have to, and I remember you saying, using these words, you have to make this your Olympics. You got to take every opportunity. If somebody's going to give you a 0.001% chance to conquer, prevail, beat cancer, you got to do it. And cleaning products in our homes are so toxic filled. And my wife now, we bought just plain spray bottles. And we put lemon, white vinegar, and water. And that's what we cleaned pretty much the whole house with. Countertops, the tub. That's all we use at our home now. This is going on for almost a year now. And zero issues. It smells clean. It works. It takes stains. It does everything. And it's simple, very low cost as well, which is really, really good because some of these products are very expensive. And you're getting zero toxins. And anybody could do it. You can make your own cleaning product at home with a couple simple ingredients, right?
Yeah, those oils, in lemon, citrus oils, are, they help to dissolve other fats and oils like cooking, grime and things like that. That's really great. One thing I learned also, in COVID and studying what to do, if you have an area that you need to disinfect, hydrogen peroxide works great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, how well hydrogen peroxide will disinfect a surface. And just it takes about 20 seconds. You just rub that hydrogen peroxide on. And then also another disinfectant if you need it. For example, just give me a second. I'll get something. I have my own homemade sanitizer. And so actually Everclear with a little bit of water in it. And so, but this, you could do this on counters or anything that you want. Like, I'll use it at my desk after an appointment. I'll spray this on the desk to disinfect, for the next person, kind of clean that. And so, alcohol, same kind of thing, just spray it on. It can't be the full strength grain alcohol. It has to actually be diluted, because alcohol, and hydrogen peroxide or soap even has to be on for about 20 seconds to kill germs. And, with that. So yes, baking soda and other things are great cleaning agents. And, so, if you need to clean the sink and it's got, grime on there, a little bit of a grittiness to that baking soda is great for cleaning that, and toilets. And there are companies also that specialize in cleaning things if you wanted to do that. But once again, they use very simple ingredients in those.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big trend pushing towards the more natural cleaning products, more natural soap bars. I mean, all our soap bars at our house that we use for ourselves are just natural, like 1-2 ingredients inside it. So you could find a lot of more natural options now, and you could make a lot of your own options, right? If you don't have the time, you could purchase them, but if you do have the time, they're very simple, very, very simple. And there's one you actually said that we actually do as well, like you said, baking soda and apple cider vinegar. I mix those two together. We use that to actually clean all our vegetables and fruits, but we actually do that to clean more like surface. If we want to scrub something, we'll use those two because they do have a little grind to it. And the apple cider vinegar just gives it that little enough acidity just to really give it a good clean as well. So that's two little products that are great to mix together.
Yes, they are, and great options. In matter of fact, it's kind of like foods. Although this is not a food, but we've got to read ingredient labels. So if that cleaning product has things on there you don't want, that is, it definitely could be a toxin, and those type things, if they're strong enough to kill bacteria and viruses, it could be strong enough to damage our body. And our body, we absorb nutrients through our skin.
Yeah.
And so using a cleaning product barehanded, now if you can smell it, you're breathing those chemicals in and you're absorbing it through your skin. Our skin is exceedingly, porous and can absorb chemicals. And matter of fact, in the pharmacy here, that's one of the things we do. We make a lot of topical products that you apply to the skin, and it's amazing how well things are absorbed. So we make a lot of hormones, and you put that on there, and it's fantastic results.
Let's dive into something you just said there with scents. And
Yes.
you go to any mall, you go to any outlet, any store, all you see is air fresheners or air ones that air plugins or
Plug-in.
scented candles, and
Mhm.
they're all so bad for you. Let's
Yes.
What's your knowledge with that? Let's talk about that, especially the scented candles. I mean, that's a big trend right now where different flavors like birthday cake and it smells like vanilla and smells like this, and you're burning these things in your home thinking you're doing something holistic and natural, and it's completely poison for you.
Yeah, exactly. And burning anything, is a potential concern. So whether it be, the cooking process, burning the food, blackening, browning, that increases potential concerns. But, burning candles, I made a post the other day about incense,
Mm.
and so the color.
But that mindset is, if you think of the last 10-15 years, you think of incense, you think of yoga, natural, healthy, and it's not.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
And so, but breathing in those chemicals. So if you can smell it, I think we need to be very careful about it. So burning things are even worse. So now we're burning those chemicals, which can change them into something else, and definitely like what we call PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and those definitely increase the risk of nasal sinus and lung cancer type things. But you burning those, and so even if it's quote natural, still burning a plant is a problem, even if it's natural. So even a natural incense or a natural candle, you're still burning something. And now we have these chemicals in the air, and they're not good for us. And even food burnt is natural, but it doesn't mean that it's good for us. So, and there's worse candles and incense than others. And so, definitely. But like a less expensive candle, there are studies showing that a less expensive candle has more toxic chemicals in it, because they're using paraffin, a petroleum product, as the wax that's drawn up into the wick, and you're burning that. And matter of fact, the wick itself and or the wax may have lead and other, not counting other chemicals, but I mean just minerals and metals in it. But there's studies showing that inexpensive candles have lead in the wicks. You're burning that; it's going up to the air. You're breathing it in. So, I'm not a fan of scents, and I think we have to be very careful about them. Burning them, it's going to be the worst, situation. The plug-ins, once again, there's unknowns. I'm really concerned about them. Once again, there's chemicals. You read those ingredients, they're not. I don't think they're great at all.
No,
and
no.
Even waxes and heating waxes, potential concerns. The only thing that, and they're not studied, but if somebody thought that they really needed to do it, do a scent, would be maybe just setting out an essential oil.
Yes.
And not aerosolizing it. So that's when one of my folks asking about, putting it in the sprayer and in the humidifier and all this kind of stuff. No, we can't put those. Matter of fact, those companies tell you you're not supposed to be,
heating those.
Heating them. You're not supposed to be, a lot of those, you're not supposed to be putting them in your mouth. And if you're not supposed to put in your mouth, then why would you want to breathe that, into the body? So, atomizing or breaking those particles up into small, once again, if you had to do something, if you had a room that you wanted to make it smell a little better, I would just open up a container of essential oil that's natural and let it set out.
It's funny you're saying that, because as a kid, I remember my parents, anytime anybody was coming down with a cold, they would put Vicks into the humidifier.
Yeah.
I just thought about that right now. And that was something that was always done. And all night you'd be just smelling that steaming Vicks, and you'd be breathing into your lungs all night.
Well,
which is crazy you're saying that, because that was like a go-to for my family.
Well, actually, we used to take it, Vicks and mentholate, and actually they would plaster it on our chest.
Yes. Before you go to bed, your chest, your back. My parents used to put it on my feet and put on warm socks. I don't know if that even did anything. That was just like an old folk myth or whatever you want to call it.
But those aromatic, smells, does kind of help open up the lung. I mean,
it would.
Yeah.
But how much? What when you look at the benefit and the negative effects of it, where's that balance?
And what was that ointment made out of?
Yeah.
Like petroleum jelly. I'll try not to say the brand name, but petroleum jelly and those other ones that were made at that time. That's a petroleum product. And matter of fact, now there's even in the compounding area, there used to be some things that we used to compound that were petroleum based products.
Yeah.
And actually now the government's saying, well, that increases the risk of cancer. We should not be doing that. And so when
you're looking at like Vaselines and all that stuff like that, there are petroleum jelly, are they not based?
They're petroleum based. That is.
And that's something where it's like you're constantly putting them on your lips, and your lips are dry, putting your nose, and your nose is dry.
Right. Yeah. So beeswax would
better
be
option.
Exactly. So even like a beeswax or maybe a soy type candle could be a better option, but still you're burning it, and how did they make that wick? What is in that wick that's burning, and if it's enough, you can see that smoke, that's definitely a problem, and oil. So same thing with, like lamps and lamp oils. Those are petroleum products, and you're breathing those in. I have some, matter of fact, on my desk, at my office at home. And when I do some recordings, if you look back on the back, well, there's an oil lamp sitting back there. There's actually no oil in it.
No, that's
And
just like those are old school stuff.
exactly old school, but in case of emergencies, we're talking about
They, yeah,
earlier. So,
yeah.
so I keep that stuff, and I have oils, so I could use it if we lose power, and we've done that. And being in Oklahoma, we have tornadoes
Yeah.
and storms, and so it can happen. And so I have those things available, but I'm not going to keep those oils because they often will put scents in them. I don't burn that lamp often. Just too many byproducts from that burnt, type thing.
Now let's talk about. We dove into a little air fresheners, plugins, stuff like that. In the car, air sense, or whatever you call those tags, or whatever you call them for the
Right.
car. I mean, you're sitting there for even your car. You put an air freshener in there, and you're sitting there for 20, 30 minutes in your car, sucking that in. Like, how bad are
Same
these
thing.
things?
Same
Not
thing.
good at all, huh?
Exactly. What is in those?
Yeah.
And once again, well, actually, well, how do they even list what's really in them? I don't think they have
No,
to.
I don't even think so. You just buy
Are
them
they?
you buy them at the gas station, buy them whatever, and you put them in your car because you feel like your car needs a little freshening or the quote unquote new car smell. And which I've actually read a study that new car smell is actually really bad for you.
Bad. Yeah, exactly. That outgassing of these plastics, and everything in a car is, plastic and dyes, even if it's a leather interior, there's still plasticizers and dyes and chemicals that are used in that, and the outgassing, how it forms a film inside the windows, you're breathing those chemicals in. So the same thing, if you wanted to do something like that, it would be more like a little vial of a essential
Scented
oil,
oils.
and you could use that and put the lid on it, and you could kind of control that, set it aside. But hanging one or putting one in your vent, once again, that those are just wrong chemicals, and we shouldn't be breathing that in. We have to have that good circulation of air. So yeah, a new car is going to be a greater concern without gassing of plastics, than an older car. So weather is good enough here today, and my truck is not new, 2019, but I cracked the windows because I do. The heat is still going to outgas. I still have to. My windows still get a grime on them
Yeah.
inside, so it's
Yeah.
still outgassing, and I'm breathing that in. So I want to let that stuff get out as much as possible.
Which is once again the fresh air, the open windows, which is a very common thing. Anything you're around. When you're looking at certain environments, work environments, when you're talking about a mechanic, somebody that works at a factory, somebody that works, we have a local gentleman here that we use as a print shop that prints vinyls for T-shirts and stuff for us. And he is literally around inks all day and printing materials and heat press. And I've told him on a regular basis, like, why are you not wearing a mask? Why are you not wearing a vented, like an actual filtered out mask when you're here at work? What's your recommendation for something like that? Like, because you go to any mechanic shop, most of them are just there changing oils and around chemicals all day and around like all these chemicals that are literally toxins. What are your recommendations for people like that? Especially as a cancer just keeps growing and growing.
Right. My father worked in a print shop, as a child. And I remember walking into that print shop, and it's like the smell was horrendous at that time. It's worse. They didn't do any safety things. And I remember walking in as like a 5-year-old, kind of like first memory, walking in that print shop to pick him up after work. And he reaches into a 5-gallon bucket and pulls out barehanded a rag of solvent, and then goes over to the printing press and cleans it, of the inks, and which are all kinds of dyes and metals and things like that. So I mean, that was a horrible situation. And matter of fact, he ended up with an early onset Alzheimer's. Now, he didn't do that his whole life, and there's other things and some family inherited tendencies. But I have a feeling that was part of his issue, was chemical exposure there, and then other things that he did at home, insecticides and pesticides and siphoning gasoline, and I mean, just all kinds of things that he did that he just didn't know, and most people don't know. So work environment like that, it's going to be protection. So, and more places are definitely providing gloves, and so handling that oil or those chemicals to help that provide that barrier. And then the vent, or the mask type thing, I'm a big proponent of. Matter of fact, I do that so much more myself. So when I'm in my workshop at home, and if I'm grinding, welding, or doing anything, or even sanding wood, even
Yeah.
cutting wood is a problem. And so there's studies showing that people that cut wood have a greater risk of cancers, like nasal sinus, oral cancers, because they're breathing in some particles from that. And so wearing a mask, I wear actually one of those KN95 masks. They have a small enough of a particle size to really reduce a lot of particles, maybe not enough for volatile solvents. So, if you have liquids that you're working with, you have to have a special type of a mask. It's more like the one with the canister.
Yeah. The filtered ones.
That are proved to help filter out volatile organic chemicals. And so, and it's something that, a person that's working, they aren't going to notice that smell. When they walk in, they're used to that.
They become nose blind to that, right?
Exactly. They develop a tolerance to it. So sometimes it takes somebody else to help remind them, about that. And so I think we do have to be very careful about barriers, fresh air. So the oil change place that I go to, they open up the doors, and even the wintertime, and they get a quick exchange of that, and then turn the engines off, and they'll turn them back on, but then they're opening up the doors again, so they've got their coats on, and trying, as part of it, is to try to help get new fresh air in, but it's still a concern, and they probably need to do better, about wearing, once again, gloves. I have heavy duty work nitrile gloves at home, and so that I can put those on when I'm working with chemicals. It's going to happen, and if I'm working on the cabinets or painting or whatever, painting my fence, I've got gloves on. And even if it's quote, like more like a latex or water-based paint, I'm putting gloves on, because there's still chemicals in that. And opening up the house, painting, once again, you got to get that ventilation, you got to get the air exchange. And I do know people that have had years of automotive repair and or painting that definitely had some cognitive and potential cancer concerns that may have been initiated by many years of exposure to those chemicals.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine pass away in his 30s, and he was a mechanic. And this kid was working on cars since he was 16. He passed away with a brain tumor. And was that a big factor in? He was touching chemicals, around chemicals, fixing race cars. Like, this kid he would work mechanic 9 to 5, and he'd be working on race cars all night. Like, he was around those chemicals 24/7, touching them, never mask, never nothing. At that time, you wouldn't even think of it, right? And now it's becoming more evident with shows like ours, and just awareness of cancers, awareness of preventable measures for cancers. But back then, nobody paid attention to anything. You just go to work, you do your stuff, you come home, you don't think of these things, right? And now you're seeing the next generation, how it has affected, and how the cancer numbers are just rising. Where in my youth, you wouldn't think about it. Now I'm in 40s and 50s. Everybody around you seems like, you turn around and it's every single day there's somebody new with cancer, something new with cancer. And we're going to bring that to another topic another day, because I do want to talk about, I think one of the topics I think is very important is the growing concern of how cancer is growing so rapidly. And there's so many things that we are as a society doing wrong that's allowing that, whether it's the processed food, whether it's environment. There's so many factors, but it's such a scary thing when you think about it. Let's give a list. Give me a list of just, these are my go-to things at home. I gave mine at the beginning. We'll go through them. Our go-to things at home and go-to things at work that I recommend for everyone to do to take a preventative action towards not only cancer, other diseases, like you said,
Oh yeah.
occurring with your environment.
Yeah. So the other things, well, one thing I do also is, checking electrical type things.
Like,
And so,
that's a good.
yeah,
That's good.
electrical. Yeah. And so, for example, right next to my office is a room with computers. And I mean, a lot of computers, file servers and switches and all types of things. And so there's definitely some electrical type things. So, okay, well, how much of a concern is that? We, we do want distance. And so, radio waves, magnetic waves, only travel to a certain extent. Well, radio waves travel, quite some way, but electrical type waves can only go a certain distance. And so out of curiosity, I'm a scientific kind of guy. And so I love my toys. And so an electronic meter. And so let's see, how are we doing here? So there's a low radio frequency. It says it said safe. Now it's saying, a greater concern. So something kind of kicked up. So yeah, so it's a little bit of a concern here. No, oh, there it went normal. So like it changes. So something was transmitting, and now something's transmitting again. So I kind of checked that. It's kind of surprising that actually it's not as bad as I thought it could be. And matter of fact, if I walk over to another window over here, like if I move my desk down, it's actually worse than out of the window. So there's something that's
Interesting.
coming. Something's coming through the window. Maybe it's that 5G tower that's just right out here on the street. I don't know.
Let's talk about that. And I just saw a post the other day on Wi-Fi. Your home, most
Oh
homes
yeah.
are Wi-Fi filled,
Mhm.
and there's certain things that I take. I mean, I slept for years and years, Keith, with my phone next to my bedside.
Mhm.
And I think I would assume most people still do. And now I sleep with my phone out of my room. I try to eliminate any type of Wi-Fi around my sleeping area where we essentially stay the most in our home, whether we're sleeping 7-8 hours straight, right? So I try to eliminate the Wi-Fi in that aspect and electronics in that aspect. How concerning is the Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi signal? Because you're hearing so many. Or is it people trying to put scare into people? Is it really that bad? Is it like, I'm trying to understand it, because it's something that we can't live without right now, right? We
That's
do
right.
need it, but how concerned should we be with it?
Well, it's another distance type thing. So, for example, I use my machine, and I have a Wi-Fi router that's next to the TV in the living room, which is kind of like the center part of the house.
Yeah, yeah, same with us.
And so, but I mean, if I'm literally 5 feet away from that router, I'm actually, and a lot of experts are probably gonna say, well, Keith, that's, this machine's not good enough, but I'm not getting any readings from that, router
Interesting.
literally 3 feet away. So I know it's interesting. So I have to admit, I'm not an electronics physics expert. I hated this subject in college. So
So somebody told me you had to be roughly 10 to 15 feet, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty far.
pretty far. But when I use this, as a matter of fact, 3 feet away, I'm not getting any measurement from that Wi-Fi. And the same thing with the phone. So I mean, my phone is going to be at least 3 feet away at night. So I leave it over there charging so I can hear it. We were talking about thunderstorms and
Yeah, yeah.
tornadoes. I want to know when that's going to happen. So I do have that in the bedroom, but it's where I can't quite get to. It's at least 3 feet away. And also I've tested radio frequencies and that works. So by having it that far away. So I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert on the Wi-Fi. Bluetooth, like using ear pods, might, definitely be a concern, having that radio thing right here in the ears. I don't wear those all the time. I do have consultations, and so I may use that. I have another headset that I will use.
Yeah, I try to still stick to a simple cord.
Yeah, and that might be better. And definitely I do use that also. And but when I test things, I once again, if we're far enough away, it's not a major issue. So same thing with even a lot of people are concerned about the dangers of the microwave, but actually I get the same measurement if I go to the toaster oven on the counter. If that's on, the electrical frequencies are significant coming from anything that's working. Okay. And so any electrical thing. So I walk by the refrigerator, and going and walk by the electric pot I'm boiling the water in, and I'm getting signals from every one of those. And the closer I get, the higher the frequency, just step back and it is not as much of a concern. The TV, if I'm further away, it is not as much of a concern.
So let's talk about that, the microwave. That's something where we try not to use it as much as at home. I still maybe use it once a day, whether it's at work or at home, just to heat something up quickly or on the go. Microwaves obviously have changed. I'm sure they're a lot safer now than they were originally when they did come out.
Mm-hmm.
Is microwave something you try to eliminate at your home, or something that people just live by, and like you said, it's just another appliance?
I view it as another appliance.
Okay.
And so I've done quite a bit of research about cooking foods and about antioxidants and preparations and such. And once again, a lot of people, won't agree with this statement, but the science, doesn't show there's that much of a concern about microwaving food. And so there is not an actual radioactive like X-ray type exposure.
Yeah, so that's what whether it's fear mongers or whatnot, that was something that was a concern. That was something you would read, is that radioactive component of it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. As a matter of fact, they're shielded good enough, and so it's running, and I get the same type of a number from a microwave as I do that toaster oven.
Interesting.
And the oven, the electric oven, and the and the stovetop, electric stovetop that we've got, I get electrical readings from all of those. Even an electric outlet, I can get a hot reading, as I walk by that electric outlet, with nothing plugged in. So anyway, so microwaves, I'm not seeing, negative things about it. Except, I don't think we should just stand there and look at it.
Of course,
cooking.
Turn it on. Give your distance to it. You're 5 feet, 6 feet away from you'll be fine.
2 feet away. Get away from that, because it is an area exposure, definitely. So same thing with any kind of electrical device. The TV, we just don't want to be standing close. I have to admit, matter of fact, I've tested and my monitors don't seem to be a significant electrical field, which is kind of neat.
Interesting. So, you're talking about computer monitors.
Computer monitors, right?
Interesting.
So that's interesting. And I can't say that they're safe, but based off of electrical, magnetic, and radio frequencies, I'm not getting anything off of this. And even with my laptop, which most of us have, I use it at home. And I do get a little bit of a radio frequency from it. And so environmental. So matter of fact, I put a pad underneath it to try to help lift it up off of my lap some, to get a little bit more distance and exposure from that. But the amount, according to, what's considered to be safe, it's like safe levels.
Okay. Interesting.
On that. So same thing with the phone. So I do try to use speaker as much as possible.
Yeah.
I will occasionally use a headset if I have to, if I need that to help listen. But I usually do more of a speaker, phone type thing.
Very, very, very good. Very, very good.
So, and food, when you cook food with a microwave, any type of cooking will break down nutrients in that food. There's not consistent research showing that cooking food in a microwave is worse than any other cooking method. Okay, so matter of fact, boiling food, you will lose more nutrients in that boiled food because of the water that you wash away those nutrients than you do in a microwaved food. And once again, when somebody hears that and I post about that, man, people are going ballistic. But I mean, that's what the science is saying.
Yeah.
And so I review that and read that, and I just don't go by one study, but consistently, I don't see major concerns. We don't use a microwave as much. I try to use ovens and go more natural type things. So I'm trying to be careful too. And we have to keep learning. Who knows what's going to come out next week on the research?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're constantly evolving. There's new research always coming. You have to you're always learning, but you have to be able to, you can't just focus on one study. It has to be multiple studies, because if you hear one study and you change your whole perspective on how you live or how your daily routine changes by one study. I mean, you need multiple studies to actually get it, because some of these studies are not, like you said, it might be done on organic food. It might not be done on non-organic. It might be done on, was there a placebo effect? There's so many other elements to those studies. So you want to make sure if you do read something, there's multiple studies that conclude to that exact same evidence, so you actually have a better understanding of what you're going to really understanding, or what you're going to get into, or what you're going to get out of that, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So along that line, we talked about intermittent fasting. I know this is off topic, but
Yeah.
There's a new study that came out about intermittent fasting, about people that do intermittent fasting have more heart problems.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time we were talking about that.
So yeah, but the American Heart Association sponsored this study, but it's not fully published yet, and they're not releasing all the data. But there's so many things we don't know about that. Were the people food secure or not, and things like that. So once again, we have to evaluate as much information as we can.
Yeah, but those people that are fasting or on this study, were they going home and slapping 5 Big Macs after that?
Exactly, they're starving. Making the bad choice. On the way home. So
yeah.
Mhm.
There's so many different things. I mean, we could even, I mean, we probably will end up doing fasting as a whole topic for a podcast one day. But I mean, fasting, to me, there's the benefits outweigh any type of negative outcome.
Exactly on that. So another thing about like at work, so I'm doing I'm standing today, and so I have a stand up desk, and I use that most of the time. Most of my appointments are virtual Zoom type meetings, and so this is the view that they get typically. I do have a desk and sit down, and so I will be doing I will sit down only for a meeting is it. So nothing else. So nothing else. And so I think we have to be very active. And so same thing at home.
Yeah.
We need to be very careful about
sedentary. Yeah. 100%.
We have to be active. We have to find reasons to get up and move.
Yeah.
And to go get a beverage or whatever, get something to drink. We've got to be as active as possible.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that.
At the house. So standing light is very important. And I pulled the screen down so that my glasses won't turn dark. But I'm blessed. We got beautiful blue skies today and trees out here. And so I'm blessed with that view. And matter of fact, there's many years ago, when I first started getting in this area, so this is like 1990. And when I first started doing natural type things, my office was way back in the back of this business, a retail area, but way back in the back. And I had a guy that came in, and so he said, Keith, your office, it needs to be in a different place. And they said, this is not good for you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the fluorescent lights, which I've got fluorescent and LED type things are converted here. And he said, they're not good for you. He said, well, yeah, I know. And he says, no, seriously. And so he did actually muscle testing. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but
no.
And okay. So it's also called applied kinesiology. So he said, Keith, hold out your arm. I hold out my arm.
Yeah. Okay. I know what that is.
Look at the light. Look at the light. And I mean, I could not resist him, in that. My arm just dropped. He said, okay, now, so let's go up front. We went front. And then he said, and I looked through the front window and looked at the sky, the blue sky. And I was so much stronger by doing that. And so actually,
which is your environment.
Exactly, the environment. So everything we're talking about. So the lighting is important.
Yeah.
The plants are important. Getting outside and walking around. I do that at
I
least.
think that's first thing in the morning. Everyone should do is, I mean, I would do my lymphatic massages and wiggles and get your circulation going. But first thing I do is open up all my curtains in our bedroom and everything, just get natural light get as much natural light in your home as possible at all times, because that's another environmental thing for your overall health, which is building up your immune system for cancer, right?
Exactly. So it's a physical, emotional, and so many things. So yes, that light is very important. And so yeah, I do the same thing. Open up those windows, and then my home office. I have a small window, which is okay, but actually I prefer sitting at the dining room table or standing there at the dining room table with the big windows open.
Yeah.
So I can see a lot more, and not that I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on in the neighborhood, but because I don't have close neighbors, but it's just a lot more light coming
It's just
in.
even just the psychological aspect of it, right? Your well-being has a huge part of the way you sleep and all this. It's the de-stressing of your body. Then the less stress you are, the less chance of cancer is coming. Everything kind of works holistically together. So I
Right,
mean,
yeah,
having a natural light, having that beautiful view, having that relaxed environment, being able to enjoy it, it's just going to bring your stress levels down. In turn, your body's less oxidized, there's so many benefits to it, right?
and so that's another podcast, stress.
Yeah. We have a lot of topics to hit on. So
Remember, you and I, we have a lot of stress in our lives, and so we do things to help reduce that, mitigate those challenges.
It was crazy. Because yesterday I did a lot of testing at the hospital, and I got home and I took my son to baseball. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I was on my hands and knees as a catcher for 2 hours. I got back home. My wife was at the mechanic, so I was cooking dinner, taking a dog for. It was just so much going on. And I finally stopped and I was like, I'm going to sit on the couch, but my anxiety levels are so high. I ended up putting on a weighted vest, putting on the treadmill on an incline. I did 20 minutes just walking on the treadmill and just sweat, took off the weighted vest, and I felt so much better. And I had that choice. I made a choice. I could have just sat on the couch and watched TV and just slowly tried to de-stress myself by watching TV. Would it have worked? Probably not as good. By putting your body through another form of stress that kind of eliminated all the other stress. And I did that. And I put myself through 20 minutes just walking level 2. I was walking like a snail on the treadmill, high incline, put a 40-pound weighted vest on my body and just walked. And I felt amazing after.
And part of that also is you got that stuff ready. And so just a second. Okay. So, things have to be ready.
Yeah.
So this is my exercise mat. So, this afternoon, I'm going to be exercising right here in my office.
Yeah.
If I have to drive to the gym, oh, well, that's too hard to do,
Yeah. It's all about preparation.
Exactly. You got to be convenient. I got a dumbbell, 8-pound dumbbell.
That's all you need.
While I'm talking to somebody, if I'm not having to write something down, I may be doing toe raises. I may be doing squats.
Yeah.
Push-ups against the desk. And so we have to take advantage of that moment. But things have to be convenient. So our house, our job, or if at all possible. Sometimes I know that's a challenge, but things have to be convenient and ready for us to do and to use. So
and you have to be creative sometimes. I mean, if you have a work, if you don't have equipment, you might have a flight of stairs up and down 10 times. You might have to go outside and walk around the building. You have to make the choice to make a healthier lifestyle, and you have to find ways to make it work for your environment.
Exactly. So we have to be always looking and for things and learning things, and even seeking, well, like this podcast, but seeking experts that have already done the research and learn quickly from that. So like if you're newly diagnosed and with cancer and there's so much information, where do you start? You've got to go with somebody that has some information and concentrate it so you can quickly learn and start making those changes instead of the panic and fretting and spending weeks and weeks and weeks trying to figure things out. Read the books, read the guides, but get that information.
That's going to be our next podcast. We're debating whether to do that today, but that's going to be your next podcast. I think our next topic has to be, and I think it's probably one of the most important, if not the most important, when you are diagnosed, which it feels like the amount of people being diagnosed every day is just growing at such a rapid pace, knowing who to turn to, people like Keith, finding the information, finding the literature, finding every option, learning how to be an advocate for yourself, which I learned within 24 hours. I had to be an advocate or no one's going to help you. So being able to, and I think that'll be a topic because you are the gentleman that most people need at that moment. And I'm the gentleman that went through that has understanding of how and what to do in that moment. And I learned very quickly, and I was a huge advocate, and I pushed and I pushed. And if I didn't push and push, maybe I wouldn't be here right now. So I think our knowledge for that next topic, I think it'll be so valuable. So that'll be our topic that I want to jump on our next podcast. I think that'll help a lot of people.
Yeah, great.
This has been awesome, buddy. I love the scrubs. I love the story. I learned a lot about you before the podcast, and we'll keep to ourselves, which is pretty awesome. And until next time, this has been the Prevail Over Cancer podcast. Many of the listeners will see also, we had it under the Jeff Knows Inc. umbrella, which was my podcast before. We're kind of pushing that away and making it its own entity because the amount of people that are reaching out to me saying, thank you for the information. Thank you for the podcast. I'm literally getting DMs on Instagram, and I'm not even lying to you, 5, 6, sometimes a day saying, thank you. This is what my son's going through. Thank you for being an advocate. Thank you for talking about the topic. Thank you for introducing me to Keith. Like, it's incredible. And your knowledge has to be spread. I mean, it's just, people need to know who you are and know what you're all about, because it's so much information that could help so many people out there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for what you're doing. I mean, you're helping out. I'm busy. and so you've got some staff to help you. And so I know it's a significant time and money investment for you. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. This has become more of a passion, and the more DMs I get, the more message I get. I just got a guy, I'll send it to you, thanking me and for everything we're doing and for all the knowledge we're passing along and everything like that, and just being an advocate. And then he sends me a video, and I'll forward it to you when we're done here, of his son hitting a baseball in his first baseball game. He's like, my son had been battling cancer for 3 years, and now he's officially cancer free, and he had his first baseball game. I was just like, he's like, I've been showing my son your videos, and it was just like, I stood there for a second. I was just like, I took it in. And I'm like, this is why I'm doing this. This is the reason, because every single person, even if it's just one person you touch, is going to just have that domino effect.
Exactly. Yeah. We just have to share. So, I mean, that's
all it is.
Exactly. We've got to share this information or share somebody that knows that information. And so, exactly. What are those sources, those resources? So we have to be able to share that.
Yeah. All the Prevail Over podcast notes. We have 5 episodes. This will be episode number 6. For all our listeners, have 2 links. One to Keith's blog, and one to his website. So you could contact him. Everything will have the information on there. It is readily available on all the podcasts. And this podcast is now, as Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, live on over 30 or 35 podcast platforms, from Apple to iTunes. If you type in Prevail Over Cancer, it'll pop up, and it's showing and it's evident. So please leave a review. Please leave feedback. Reach out to Keith if you need help or information. But thank you for spending time for listening. And thank you, Keith, for everything you do as well, buddy.
Thank you. We as a community appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay.
Cheers.